this story here about Pete Buttigieg and Vivek Ramaswamy, you know, I told you guys a couple nights ago that Vivek did remind me of Barack Obama. He was giving me Obama vibes, you know, saying the things that you think people really want to hear, and the whole like persona. But then I noticed something recently, that he is actually more aligned with Pete Buttigieg. And I have some things to show you to prove why I think that. Now, we got to think about where these guys are coming from, right? Both of them came from Harvard. Both of them ran for president in their 30s. And there's something else too. You see, DC Drano, I believe this guy is a conservative. I think DC Drano is a conservative, but he pointed this out. Look at this. Okay, what the hell is going on? Pete Buttigieg and Big Pharma Vivek both getting called to ask questions on MSNBC. Look, guys, I told you, look, both running for president in their late 30s, both getting money from the Soros family. Something strange is going on here. Now, here's the picture. I'm going to show you the video. Here's Pete in college at Harvard, and there's Vivek in college at Harvard. They're at the same thing. This is Hardball with Chris Matthews. You guys remember Hardball? So this is Hardball. There's Pete, and there is Vivek. MSNBC. Now, I've told you before, at these presidential candidate town halls or meetings, whatever you want to refer to them as, that the people who are actually chosen to ask the question, those people have already been selected prior to that town hall. Their question has already been submitted. They already know what they are going to ask the candidates. So these two, now explain this to me, and maybe it's just a coincidence, but I find it to be really interesting that both of them were at the same presidential candidate event. It was Al Sharpton there. We'll get into the video. Both of them were selected to ask a question. Let's go on to the video. Both of them. Both of them. Have you heard Pete and Vivek ever mention that? Look, guys, these people are selected. Going all the way back to when they were in college. Tell me Pete wasn't selected. Tell me Vivek wasn't selected. This is not a coincidence, in my opinion. Now, if we go to the video, this is Al Sharpton. So for those who don't remember, Al Sharpton ran for president in 2004. His race didn't get a lot of attention. I'm just going to keep it real. It didn't get a lot of attention, but he did run for president in 2004. And this is the candidate that is going to be questioned. So listen to this.
Question here, go ahead. Reverend Sharpton, hello, I'm Vivek, and I want to ask you, last week on the show we had Senator Kerry, and this week and the week before we had Senator Edwards, and my question for you is, of all the Democratic candidates out there, why should I vote for the one with the least political experience?
Well, let's pause for a second. We'll go back. I want to show you something at the very beginning. Right here, Harvard University, Kennedy School of Government Institute of Politics. So here's Chris Matthews. There's, hey, Kit, what's up? I know, Kit, this shit is wild. It's wild. There's Chris Matthews. There's Al Sharpton. All right, here we go. So he told you that there were already two other candidates that were there.
Reverend Sharpton, hello, I'm Vivek, and I want to ask you, last week on the show we had Senator Kerry, and this week and the week before we had Senator Edwards, and my question.
So John Kerry and John Edwards, they were already there the 2 weeks before. So the week before and then the week before that. The prior weeks, those people were already there. Sounds like Vivek was at those too. Let's go on.
Question for you is, of all the Democratic candidates out there, why should I vote for the one with the least political experience?
And what's funny about his question is that that's him right now. That's him right now. Why should I vote for the candidate with the least political experience? That is literally Vivek right now in the GOP race. I'll continue.
Well, you shouldn't, because I have the most political experience. I got involved in the political movement when I was 12 years old. And I've been involved in social policy for the last 30 years. So don't confuse people that have a job with political experience.
It's funny because Al Sharpton doesn't even talk that way today now that he's on MSNBC. You see how this goes? Like, he's interviewed on MSNBC as a presidential candidate, and now he has an anchor spot on MSNBC. Like, all these people stay together. I'll show you some more receipts.
Whoever the head of some local bureaucracy has a job in Cambridge. That doesn't mean that they have political experience, and it doesn't mean they have the experience to run the United States government. So I think that we confuse title holders with political experience, as we have seen with the present occupant in the White House. George Bush was a governor and clearly has shown he doesn't have political experience.
Okay, so that happened, and I was trying to find the video with Pete too. That one's harder to find, but yeah, there are those clips there. So people are, if you look at the responses underneath that tweet, it's interesting. Now there's something else that's a little bit weird. Now remember, that was Democrat, right? Okay. This is not to say people can't change their political affiliation. People do. Some people may have been a Democrat 20 years ago and then switched to the Republican Party. Some people may have been Republican and switched to the Democratic Party. That being said, though, something else is a little bit strange. You see, according to this, let me pull this up because I didn't know this either. But a lot of things are starting to come out. Let me increase this. This is how I tell you I think these people are selected. Vivek Ramaswamy's voting record shows he is not a registered Republican and donated to anti-Trump Democrat candidate in 2016. That's a little bit weird. I mean, I don't know if he said how long he's been a Republican, but didn't Vivek say multiple times in interviews that Donald Trump did a good job? That Donald Trump was the best president? Didn't he say that? Like I told you, I knew it about this guy, man. I freaking knew it. In recent revelation, GOP presidential candidate Hirsch Singh has brought to light controversial details concerning Vivek Ramaswamy's political affiliations and voting history. Documentation obtained from Franklin County, Ohio Board of Elections suggests that Ramaswamy is not a registered Republican, but rather a registered unaffiliated voter. Per documentation received by Vivek, Franklin County, Ohio Board of Elections, Vivek is not a registered Republican, but registered unaffiliated and never voted in a Republican primary in his life. Now, again, I mean, if we just want to go back to the video, where was the video? Where'd the video go? I forgot what I did with the video. But if we want to go back, oh, it's up here. If we want to go back to the video, remember, this was a Democrat. This was a Democrat event. Al Sharpton didn't run as a Republican. No, but I figured maybe he changed his political views along the way. But this is a little bit odd. I mean, it's just, and here it is right here. I'll pull it up, the receipt. Franklin County Board of Elections, Vivek Ramaswamy, Columbus, Ohio, registered status active. Now this goes back to 2021, 2022 party U. So that's unaffiliated, right? Voting records initially posted by an account called Ohio Legislative Watch on X shows that Ramaswamy did not vote in the Ohio state primaries in 2022 and 2023. Well, this is awkward. GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, who lives in Columbus, is not a registered Republican in Ohio and has skipped half of the election since registering to Franklin County. So, I don't know. Like, That's a little bit weird, just a little bit weird. But there's more connections here. There's more connections. There's money connections. Because you see, Vivek and Pete, they both got funding from Soros. Let's look at Vivek first. No, we'll go to Pete first. Look at Pete and we'll go to Vivek. Look at this. So again, we're looking at the FEC site. Okay. Let's go down. This is Pete Buttigieg. So this was his race in 2020. Let's sort by amount. I always like to put the highest amount at the top first. You see this organization here, Vote Vets? You see that? Do you know who funds that organization? That organization is funded by George Soros and the Koch brothers. Look, you got to look into these things. Now, look at the money that Pete took from, and this is what they'll do. See, people like George Soros, they're very smart. They put their money through other organizations to make it more difficult for you to trace the money back to them. So if someone were to come up to Pete and say, you were funded by George Soros, he'll say, pull up the receipts. I was not funded by George Soros. And if you don't dig further and look at what these organizations actually are and who funded it, then you won't know, right? They're smart. That's how a lot of them do it. But look at how much money he got. What the $1 million, $800,000, $600,000, another $600,000, over $275,000. You see this, guys? Corporate to the T. Look at all this money. But over 1 million, the largest amount that he received from Vote Vets. Okay? Soros. And then, second of all, that $1 million, think about it for a second. Imagine what that money could do for homelessness in this country. Imagine all this money that was sent to these campaigns. Imagine if all that money was put towards ending homelessness in this country, building clinics for people in this country. No, but people send this money to campaigns. Vivek, also Soros. He was a Soros fellow. Say, look, Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans. Here's Vivek. I showed it on this show before. I don't know if Vivek talks about this. Founder and CEO of Rovent Sciences, Vivek Ramaswamy is the child of immigrants from India, fellowship awarded to support work towards a JD in law at Yale University. Now, this is not to say that people shouldn't be able to have fellowships. A lot of the kids that I worked with that went to MIT and BU, a lot of them were on a fellowship. This is not to say you can't be on one. What it is to say, though, it is very odd to me, a little bit strange, that both him and Pete Buttigieg just happened to be at that same event. Both of them were able to ask questions to the presidential candidates. Both of them went on to run for president in their 30s. And both of them, it seemed like they came out of nowhere and they shot up quickly in reference to the polls or media attention. Think about all the media attention, mainstream media we'll talk about. Think about all the mainstream media attention that Pete got in 2020. Pete wasn't even in the top 3 polling at that point in time. And they were giving him spots everywhere. CNN, he was on the cover of like Time magazine, like all over the place. He came out of nowhere. Now, granted, Pete did have some political experience because he was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. But come on, guys. How many times have you seen someone who was a mayor of a small town just get that much media attention out of nowhere from presidential campaign? He came out of nowhere. Same thing with Vivek. Every time you turn around, Vivek is on mainstream media, right? And other people who are running in this race with him are ignored a lot by mainstream media. More well-known people, more well-known names. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. I believe that Pete Buttigieg, and I said this back in 2020, And Vivek Ramaswamy were selected. And I believe that they were selected a long time ago. They start recruiting these people when they're in college. They go to the Kennedy School at Harvard. They get these people early. There's more. Something else I want to show you as well. Oh, we'll go to that one next. Okay, I'll go to this one about Pete. So Pete now still cool. Look at this. See, they kept that relationship. He asked that question up at the microphone, and they still cool together. Look at this. Now, this was this year.
We've got a crisis when it comes to roadway fatalities in America. We lose about 40,000 people every year. It's a level that's comparable to gun violence. And we see a lot of racial disparities. Black and brown Americans, tribal citizens, and rural residents much more likely to lose their lives, whether it's in a car or as a pedestrian being hit by a car. There are a lot of reasons related to discrimination, related to even the ways that roads are designed and built. Who has access to a safe street design that's got crosswalks and good lighting? And who doesn't have that access? That can drive disparities. And we have a responsibility to act on that. We've got a crisis.
Now, this is Pete speaking at an event for Al Sharpton in reference to an organization that Al Sharpton leads. Here's another video I want to show you here. Look at this. Al Sharpton intros Pete Buttigieg at NAN this AM. Says when he brought the mayor to lunch where he brought Obama, I wanted to make a statement for the cynics in the media that try and act like homophobia in the Black community is different than homophobia in America. Listen to this. When he brought the mayor to lunch where he brought Obama. This is the Harvard connection. Listen to this. Watch. You'll see Pete at the end.
I invited Mayor Pete to have lunch with me in Harlem. And we sat at the same table that I sat with Senator Obama, who became president, and Carolyn Kennedy and others.
Did y'all hear that? You hear that? Okay.
I wanted to make a statement for the cynics in the media that they try and act like homophobia in the Black community is different than homophobia in America. There are some homophobic Blacks, and there are some homophobic whites. We don't have an epidemic of homophobia, but we have some homophobics just like any other community. And it is a process that America needs to deal with, both in the Black and white community. We have probably some homophobes in here. We also have folk in here, every one of us have people in the LGBT community in our families. So quit playing with this and posing to be chosen when you know that in your own family, you've got to deal with these issues. If we support or don't support Pete Buttigieg, it has nothing to do with LGBTQ. He is as welcome in our community as anybody else.
Okay, so you see what's happening here, right? So here you have Al Sharpton, here's Pete Buttigieg, and let's all remember Al Sharpton works for MSNBC. So the point that I'm trying to make is this. Pete Buttigieg spoke at this event when Al Sharpton was running for president in 2004. He was one of the people that was able to stand up and ask a question. Those people are selected ahead of time before the event happens. So he was already selected for the question. Obviously, this relationship continued with him and Al Sharpton because here he is right here with him today. Al Sharpton told you, I took him to lunch at the same table where I took Obama. So what I'm trying to bring to you is this. These people are selected. And if Pete Buttigieg were to run for president again, how do you think that MSNBC is going to talk about him and his campaign? They're going to talk about him in a favorable way. He already has the in, you guys. That's what I want you to get. He already got the approval by the media because he already got the in with the media. These mofos are selected. I knew it. I just needed more things I needed some receipts. I needed some evidence. And there was an article here that pointed out these differences or the comparisons between them as well. I said again, Vivek is Pete and Pete is Vivek. Look at this. Vivek Ramaswamy emerges as the Republican Pete Buttigieg in that the other candidates hate him. And as one part I want to get to here, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but this piece right here, this part, which is why it's also easy to see why every other candidate on stage despises him. They're talking about Vivek. Like wonderkind Democrat Pete Buttigieg in 2024, Ramaswamy has short-circuited the route to political viability simply by being good at talking. Don't you guys notice that about both of them? They're good talkers, right? Mm-hmm. In a field in which multiple candidates had to debase themselves to the point of pretending to enjoy working for Donald Trump, Ramaswamy stands out for having not paid any dues at all. His purported innermost beliefs, like theirs, are carefully calibrated to meet the political moment. His tilt more MAGA nationalist than GOP orthodox, which makes sense in that he needs podcast buzz more than donor support. But unlike them, he has not spent decades of his life having to attend pancake breakfasts in East Shittsville County while accumulating positions that are inconvenient to his current ambition. Like Mayor Pete's dues-paying competitors in 2020, particularly Minnesota's Amy Klobuchar, they find this really annoying. If there is any solace for Ramaswamy's detractors, it's that, like Mayor Pete, he will almost certainly not win his race. He's just coming from too far behind as a matter of name recognition and voter trust. But he can emerge from a losing campaign with his stock on the way up, and most of them cannot. And if Wednesday's debate is any indication, that it is not something they are going to forgive him for. You know how many politicians have been recruited from Harvard recently? Look at this. This was 2021. Is this 2021, 2022? Let me check the date. 2020, sorry. 2020, look at this. More than 40 Harvard alumni win seats in 117th Congress. Where do you think they recruit these guys from, guys? The Kennedy School at Harvard? Yale? They usually go to these Ivy League schools to recruit these guys. Again, these people are selected. We've had 8 presidents that graduated from Harvard. My former governor graduated from Harvard. Mayor Michelle Wu, the current mayor of Boston, graduated from Harvard. You guys see a connection? So how do we sum this up? Vivek is Pete and Pete is Vivek. Different political parties. And based on what we saw with the voter registration and the voter history, is Vivek even really a Republican? Oh man, they come up with all kind of stuff. All kinds. Oh man, let me go to the comments. Shout out to Want to See More for becoming a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Rochester says, seems like everyone is bought and paid for. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Deneen says, oh, the good old days when Al had some meat on him. Yeah, Al looked different then. Thank you, Derek. They both plagiarized Obama's speeches too. And there's that. I couldn't find the video for that one. That's why I didn't bring it up, because I couldn't find a video. And thank you, Awi. Oh no, wait a minute. I played the video for Vivek. You're right. I played the video of Vivek saying skinny kid from the. Whoo, man.